Well, hey everyone, my name is Todd Kushlikas, and I'm the founder of A Shot of Adrenaline, and I am super excited today because we have on the show with us Hugo Rivera, who is just an amazing guy, one of my great friends, and even a mentor of mine, and he's going to be sharing with us some great tips on natural bodybuilding and building size, and we were already talking for a little while on tips, so I was like, oh, we got to hit the record button because we got to get this information out there. So, Hugo, thanks so much and welcome to the show.
No, thank you, Todd. I really, really appreciate it. It's a real honor for me to be part of the show. So thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Hugo is, he's a very successful natural bodybuilder and has competed at the state and national level. And one of those placing fourth in the nationwide NPC Team Universe, which is basically the natural bodybuilder's highest and most competitive contest. And he's a prolific author and has published successful books called The Body Sculpting Bible for Men, The Body Sculpting Bible for Women, The Hard Gainers Bodybuilding Handbook, The Body Reengineering ebook. The list goes on. And it's just exciting I'm just diving into his books now, and I'm just learning a ton. And he's written for Muscle Magazine, Natural Muscle, Ladies Home Journal, and this bio could go on for longer, Hugo, but I know the information should get moving on to some specific questions that I've got, Hugo. And I know that I kind of want to start off with your background because it's a really interesting background. And, a lot of people, we've seen guys, it seems like they practically pop out of their mother's womb with six-pack abs and biceps. And Hugo, you're definitely not one of those guys, if I understand your story correctly. Could you kind of share a little bit about it and kind of what made you inspired to get into fitness?
Absolutely, Todd, and thank you for the question, because a lot of people look at me and they think that I'm your average, high school jock, always had abs, super endowed with great genetics and all this. And that was not me. I'm just your average, fat kid, to put it mildly. I was really obese, to be quite honest with you, reaching an all-time high of like around 170 pounds when I was 12 years old. And mind you, I was only 5 feet tall, okay? So, I was sporting a waist of anywhere between 45 to 46 inches. It was big, huh? It was really, really out of shape, and really, just because I didn't listen when I was a kid, I just basically ate all the wrong things. And of course, my parents tried to feed me the right things, but it didn't matter. I'm going to go for the chips. I'm going to go for the Coke. I was drinking at one point in time, I remember, probably 12 sodas a day. Kid you not.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So it was out of control, and I have only myself to blame for it. And at the same time, I'm also coming from a Hispanic family, and Hispanic families, the way they show love is by feeding the child. So it's like
as much as you can eat.
So it's like, exactly. It's like an as much as you can eat mentality. But like I said, they will feed me good food, large quantities of the good food, and then on top of that, I would add all the other things on it. And of course, I ended up pretty big. And one day, basically, I asked a girl out to go to a party with me, and of course she said no, I'm not gonna go with you. And she said something really bad, and I remember it to this day. She's like, you look like a little pig, so I don't go out with kids like you. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
I thank her so much, because that's what I needed to be like, okay, what can I do here? And the thing is that I took it to the extreme. I said, you know what? From this day on, I'm going to be skinny. And unfortunately, what happened is that I started by cutting all of the bad things at first. And of course, my weight dropped dramatically. I remember that as soon as I stopped chips and the sodas alone, imagine the calorie count of 12 sodas. Immediately, I lost like 10 pounds, and kid you not, like 3 days, 10 pounds, gone. And of course, I got addicted to the fast weight loss, and I wanted to keep it going. So every single time I would stagnate, I would take some off and take more food off. Obviously, eventually, you reach a point where if you keep taking food off, you're not going to be eating much of anything. So I ended up living probably, in a diet soda sort of diet. And I will hide, and I will try not to eat. I will feed the dog under the table and stuff like that. And slowly but surely, I ended up getting anorexic, And that's when my parents and my grandfather, who we all lived in a big house together, my grandfather was a medical doctor. He told my parents, it's like, look, there's something really wrong because his weight loss is super fast. I hardly see him eating. He needs some help. Mm-hmm. And they took me to a nutritionist. And this nutritionist saved my life because it's like she said one sentence that took me out of the anorexia. And the sentence was, food is not going to make you fat. It's the abuse of the wrong sorts of foods that will. Mm. And honestly, thank God for that woman because it's like that clicked. Mm. And I told her, I said, you know what? What you say makes sense. Now, I'm going to follow your diet to the letter. If I gain 1 pound, you're going to hear from me over the phone, you know? And she told me, she's like, you have to understand the following. You killed your thyroid levels by the kind of lack of dieting because you were not even eating, you know, over the past few months. So it's like, because of that, your body will readjust, but I guarantee you that you will just gain like 10 pounds. And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, Todd, oh my God, 10 pounds. It's like, this is crazy, you know? I was weighing 90 pounds, by the way. I went down from 170 to 90 pounds like in 9 months.
Wow.
All right?
Wow.
I was tiny, Todd. I couldn't even carry much of anything, to be quite honest with you. My hair was falling. It was a nightmare. But anyways, I kept saying to myself, I'd rather be dead than fat. That was the philosophy I had at that point, okay? That was my mindset. And as extreme as it sounded, you know, it kind of like helped me lose the weight, of course, in the wrong way. So, you know, this lady now sets me up on a diet of 2,000 calories. And she told me, she's like, once your system balances itself out since you're a teenager, we may have to bring up the calories, but let's start with this. And I kid you not, I made my parents get me like a measuring kit, and I would measure everything to the grain of rice, okay? It was like, okay, she said 1 cup of rice, and I'll just make sure there's not an extra gram of rice over there, okay? And that's what I did. And I started measuring everything. So I got really used to measuring my food and really disciplined about it. Lo and behold, I went up to 100 pounds. I kind of like noticed that my weight stabilized at like 103. It didn't go above that. And I kept weighing myself every single morning. It was bad in the head, okay? I mean, because anorexia doesn't go away from one day to the next, but I had the determination to follow the diet through, and I knew that if something was going wrong, I would just call the dietitian, you know? Mm-hmm. So that was my thing. It's like, okay, I have a dietitian that I can call. I have a doctor in the house. I should be okay.
Yeah, you got all the support that you need, so that's exactly what you got.
So, you know, what ended up happening then is that I went out again to a summer resort that my parents used to go all the time. And then I meet this girl that tells me, well, you're really cute, but, you know, you could really use some muscles on you. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I hate exercise. It's something that I just cannot tolerate, all right? And I already had to leave food. Now this girl's telling me I need to gain some muscle.
Hugo, this girl's ruling your life.
They completely did back then, I promise you. I'm a product.
They still do now.
Well, bottom line is I don't know anything about exercise, okay? So I tell my mom, get me some sort of literature, some sort of muscle magazine so that I can start learning how to do this. Because that's how my mindset is. When I don't know something, my first instinct is to read about it. Mm-hmm. So she got me the May 1990 Muscle and Fitness edition that had a super feature from the one and only greatest Arnold Schwarzenegger on how to get big. Okay, it was called like that, How to Get Big by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I look at this guy, I said, he looks like a Greek god. This is amazing how this guy looks. I said, I don't care what anybody says, that's how I need to look. Period. End of story. Yeah. Okay? And I started following that verbatim. He said to go to the gym, do this, do that other exercise. And I was hurting like you wouldn't imagine. I started going to the base. Back in the days, my dad was a captain in the Army Reserves. And I had access to the gym over there. And I was super weak, Todd. I mean, I could only pick up like a 10-pound dumbbell. And I would curl it once, and that was my max. Okay. I had to start with some really lightweight. Most of what I was doing at the beginning, I had to modify Arnold's workout to use like the bench machine and things like that, because I couldn't handle the heavy free weights. Okay. But I had a lot of guys there, a lot of soldiers that were really cool, and they spotted me and they supported me and stuff. I started eating like Arnold said, and I started following his routine, modified to have some machines in it. And lo and behold, kid you not, my body just absorbed everything like a sponge. That was over a summer. In 3 months, I gained 45 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
Arnold
knows his stuff.
Oh man, I blew up, and I was like, this is it. This is what I love. This is what I like, And I remember going back to school, and everybody's like, Hugo, you took some anabolic steroids. And at the time, I didn't even know what that was. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I killed myself at the gym. I eat 6 times a day, and this is how I got like that. Period.
So Hugo, share with us. I mean, because your website says that about natural bodybuilding. Is that what you mean by natural bodybuilding? Just no steroids, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
To me, what attracted me towards natural bodybuilding is the fact that when you practice bodybuilding using steroids, what happens is that you create a hormonal environment that is super productive to muscle mass gains, okay? Basically, you bring your testosterone levels through the roof, okay? Now, there are a couple of problems with that. Number one, when you have your testosterone levels above physiological levels, you're running your body at a level that is not designed for, to be quite honest with you. And of course, that's going to cause, damage to internal organs and whatnot. And in addition to that, what happens is that when you stop the steroid therapy, which eventually you will have to, the hormonal imbalance created causes a situation where you lose all the gains. So that's the part that really didn't attract me about steroids. And thank God for my grandfather, who's the one that educated me on the subject. Because as soon as I learned about steroids, I went to ask him. And he told me, he's like, Hugo, it's like, you're a teenager. Your testosterone levels are through the roof. It's like, these drugs, if you start taking them, they're gonna shut down your own production. You're gonna minimize your gains. It's like, it's like you're perfect as is. So once I started, to listen to him, and I started doing my own research on the drugs, I said, okay. I said, that's the issue. If you take these things and you increase your levels at above normal, obviously when you come off, the gains go away. So that's the thing that didn't call my attention about them. I think steroids have a place perhaps in hormonal replacement therapy, which is basically when men stop to produce testosterone at adequate levels, then you can bring them to like a high normal range, but never ever going supraphysiological levels, okay? Because at those levels, obviously, then you're going to start causing, damage to the inner organs, things like that. And, that's the problem with steroids. And also, I think that the reason a lot of people get into them is just really lack of information. They think that they're magical drugs, and they're like, oh, I take this, I'm going to look like the Mr. Olympia, blah, blah, blah. It's not like that at all,
You got to work hard.
There's no shortcut to the training and the nutrition. And if people really knew how the top Olympians train and the kind of lifestyle that they live, they'll be shocked. I mean, I know people like Jay Cutler, for example. There was a year that he was training like 5 times a day, because I remember reading about it. Wow. It's a super structured lifestyle. It's not just a matter of you take the drugs, you blow up. There's many things. It's like your genetics, the kind of like training, nutrition you follow, and all that stuff. And then again, like I said, if you have levels that are super high, once you go ahead and discontinue the therapy, you're going to shrink. So that's why I was not interested in that. That's
That makes sense. It's just healthier all around anyways. So
absolutely. I think the best thing is to, just go ahead and use your potential, and everybody can get a great physique. Okay, especially today that we know so much about training, nutrition, supplementation. I mean, there are supplements out there like creatine that have drug-like effects without being steroids, So I just don't think that steroids is something that people need to be dealing with, like I said.
So share, Hugo, with us kind of your nutrition plan, like what you eat on a regular basis to maximize your muscle gains, and if any, you mentioned creatine, to use protein powder.
Okay, well, I'll talk about three things, okay? First, let me talk about training, okay? And I'll cover that real quickly before I get into the nutrition, if I may, just because it's important. Yeah. There's something that I figured out with the training that will give people the best results, and that is the concept of periodization. Mm-hmm. Okay, basically what you do is that you create workouts that over a period of time, meaning 3 to 4 weeks, you increase the volume, you increase the amount of repetitions that you do. Okay, you do less rest in between sets, and that will irritate the body. Okay, and you can bring it to the point of almost overtraining. And at the end of this 3 to 4 weeks, what you do is that you back off, okay, and you increase the rest in between sets, you decrease the repetitions, you hit heavier weight and things like that. And what the body will do is that it will use those extra recovery capabilities that it has built up when you were ramping up with the volume to create some new muscle mass, provided you're feeding it correctly, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like a technique that I like to use, and that's how it has helped me to build the physique that I have today, and it has helped the physique of the thousands of people that have tried my body reengineering program out there, Yeah. So I really wanted to cover this technique with you because a lot of people, the problem that they have with not making gains is that they keep the same routine all the time. Right. So obviously the body gets used to it,
Right. You've got to do it. Like Jack LaLanne always said, he said every 30 days you have to change up your routine.
All of the top bodybuilders and fitness experts out there, like Jack LaLanne, for example, who was a Mr. Universe back in the day. A lot of people don't know that, but it's true. And God bless Jack, because he really made weight training mainstream to everybody, and that was awesome. Mm-hmm. At any rate, any successful bodybuilder out there, whether competitive or non-competitive, changes their routine periodically. And the key thing is that if it is changed in a way that is logical, like via periodization, you can really maximize the body systems and use them to your own advantage. Okay?
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. How about supplementation as well?
Okay, well, first I'll answer your question on nutrition. Oh, yeah. Nutrition, it really depends on the type of person that you are. If you are an ectomorph, meaning that you're naturally skinny, typically have abs, but you have issues gaining weight, I will go ahead and give you more carbohydrates than I would give a person like myself, who's an endomorph who can easily get fat if you eat the wrong sorts of foods. Okay. We also have the mesomorph, who is the naturally muscular person, okay, those guys that they don't lift the weight, but they're jacked all the time. They already have muscle. They already have really good definition. I have a couple of friends like that. It's crazy. And, it's for them, they don't need as little carbs as the endomorph, and I say little relatively speaking, and they don't need as high carbs as the hard gainer or ectomorph, but I put them kind of like in the middle. So just to summarize, what I like to do is I like to prescribe a diet of 55 to 60% carbs for an ectomorph, the naturally skinny person. Okay. 20 to 25% of the calories will come from protein and then 20% from fats. For the mesomorph, the naturally muscular guy, somewhere around 50% carbs, 30% proteins, and 20% fats. And for the endomorph, like myself, I'll do something like 45% carbs, 35% proteins, and 20% fats. Okay? Now, the carbs, the proteins, and the fats, where do they come from? Well, you can take the carbs from like brown rice, some sweet potatoes, some oatmeal, which I absolutely and truly love. As a matter of fact, that's typically what I have for breakfast. I like to have some oatmeal in my breakfast. You can either have it with like some egg whites, or you can have like some protein powder on the oatmeal. Up to you, For protein, what I like to choose is lean sources of protein, like, like chicken. Sometimes I will have some lean red meat. Okay, you can have some egg whites. Definitely salmon. I absolutely love salmon. Salmon does have fats in it, but it's a good source of fats, and we need to have those good sources because the brain and the whole body just simply needs these fats in order to function. Okay. So if you go on a fat-free diet, like some misinformed people do, you'll be killing your hormonal production, you'll be killing your brain function, you'll be killing your joints. You need to have good fats in the diet, and these good fats can come from like fish oils, flaxseed oil. I like to have cashews also. I like to have almonds, extra virgin olive oil. So I make sure that my 20% of fats come from those sources right there. So,
okay, that makes sense. So how does one find out what body type that they have?
That's a great question. Well, basically, it's very simple, to be honest. If you're just naturally skinny and you notice that you eat and you try to eat and you're not gaining any weight, you're an ectomorph, for sure. Okay? So there's no fuss about it.
That's
it's like
Hugo.
pretty
I'm
simple.
definitely ectomorph. That's
That's funny. So with me, however, I'm an endomorph because with me, if I eat the wrong sorts of foods, I'm going to get fat. Okay? Now, the cool thing with the endomorph is that with the right diet, we can gain muscle pretty easily. Okay? So that's pretty cool. The key thing is just to have the right diet so you can bring down the body fat, right? And then the mesomorph, honestly, mesomorphs, they don't even know how good they have it because they're born like that. But the average mesomorph is the guy that you see that can do really well in the weight room. I mean, steps into the weight room for the first time and is benching like 200 pounds. It's like okay, that's easy. They're typically muscular already, and they have abs. And unlike the ectomorph, they build muscle very, very quickly. And it seems like it doesn't matter what they eat; it just goes to the right places. That's pretty much how you know what kind of body type you fit into.
Okay. Yeah, Hugo, just real quick story. My wife's a teacher, and so this is a couple of years ago. We brought her class to the local zoo. It was a really hot day out, and so a couple of the kids took their shirts off, and my jaw almost dropped. Like, these guys are like these guys are like Jack the Lanes, and they don't work out. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, they're the ones we're all jealous of.
Listen, I have a friend of mine who showed me a picture of him when he was 14. I kid you not, Todd, when I tell you that he was doing like a most muscular pose. The thing is that he looked exactly like I look today in contest shape, but he had never ever picked up a weight or dieted a day in his life when he took that picture. Okay,
that makes me sad.
Oh, and what is funny because he's pretty humble about it too. It's hilarious. He started training at 16 years old. Today, he's my same age. He's like 37, and today he weighs 260 pounds. Okay, he's 5'10".
Wow,
shredded to the max. But the funny thing is that has the most pleasing lines. He could easily compete at the pro level. He just doesn't really care about competition,
Wow.
But he is a physique and a half. It's like that's what a mesomorph looks like, okay? And I remember one time that he was asking me, hey, Hugo, show me how you look because I was getting ready for a contest. He's like, show me how you look. So we were in my home gym and I took my clothes off and I was, doing my poses. He's like, man, you're awesome. I'm like, dude, show me how you look right now. He's like, no, because he's really shy about it. I'm like, dude, honestly, there's nobody here. Show me how you look. Let me tell you something, Todd. I wanted to cry because it's like, okay, it's like I couldn't even go against them on that day. You know what I mean? On my best, there's no way I can beat a guy like that because not only does he have the size and the definition, he has the symmetry. He has the right look to him. What can you do? I mean, God bless him. That's it. It's like he came talented like that.
That's funny. So how about supplements? You give us some tips on supplements.
I'll tell you what, the first thing I'll say is the following. A lot of people think, okay, supplements is where the muscle building is at. No. Muscle building is a bicycle. And I learned this from my good friend Lita Brada. You have the training as your first wheel, and you have the nutrition on your second wheel. If you take one of the wheels off, obviously, maybe you're really good about like running with just one wheel, but still, you could get so much faster with both wheels put together, So, with that said, supplements are just what the word says. Supplements to an already good diet and training program. So what supplements I believe in? Well, first and foremost, I think everybody needs a good multiple vitamin and mineral formula, simply because, the vegetables we eat today, they may not come from the best ground, and therefore the vitamins and minerals that these vegetables could have are not there necessarily. Plus, with the cooking and everything else, you lose a few more. So that's why I believe in a good multiple vitamin and mineral formula, simply because these factors help to take the food that you ingest, and I'm really simplifying things here at the biochemical level, but it converts the food into energy and into the tissues that you need, etc., etc. So that's why I believe in that. Second supplement, protein powder. Why? You really can diet without protein powder. Okay, it's not that it has anything particularly better than food, because food is the absolute best you can ingest. Okay, but it makes it convenient, because if you have to eat 5 to 6 meals a day, it's so much easier to have your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner, and protein shakes in between, than having the 6 real meals. Me, typically, if I can, I try to have as much as 4 real meals, because like I said, food is more powerful than protein powder. So when I can, I do it. And I try to do it as often as possible. But even though I work for myself, I'm a very busy guy. Like yesterday, for example, I worked 13 hours. So yesterday I had 3 meals and 3 shakes. It just makes it very convenient. That way you don't lose those extra meals that you need in between to cover that you need to cover your protein requirements. Okay, so protein powder is the second one. Third one, by far, has to be some sort of essential fatty acid supplement. Best one, I think, is the Carlson fish oils. If you don't like eating salmon, I eat salmon, so me personally, I can live without the Carlson fish oils myself because of the salmon that I consume. But if you don't like fish, definitely the Carlson fish oils is a great supplement, not only because it's really good tasting. They actually make it taste like lemon. But fish oils have just so many properties. I mean, it helps you to lose fat. It helps you to gain muscle. If you talk to Lila Brada, again, I bring him up because of the kind of physique he has. He'll tell you fish oils are one of his best kept secrets. Okay? It's one of those supplements that the longer you take it, the more results you're going to get from it. Okay? And there's even research that indicates that when you consume fish oils, it has an anti-lipolytic effect, meaning that it suppresses certain enzymes responsible for storing fat, and therefore you can diet at a slightly higher calorie level, and those calories are not going to be stored as fat, which makes it really, really interesting. Yeah. And from a health standpoint, you cannot beat it. I mean, this stuff helps you with brain health and joint health and energy. So you name it. I mean, fish oils, if you're not consuming the fish oils from a source like salmon, definitely get yourself some fish oils in the form of a supplement. Okay? And after that, if you're really serious into your training and you're really hitting it hard, I would definitely recommend some creatine, because it really helps you not only to put some extra lean mass immediately, because creatine fills up your muscle cell with water. And I think here's where the confusion is. A lot of people say, well, you take creatine and you look puffy. Not really. If you take creatine, what happens is that you gain water inside of the muscle cell, and that is going to make for a bigger looking muscle cell and a harder looking muscle cell. The water that is problematic is the water that is in between the muscles and the skin. Okay, that's considered as extra water retention, and that's what makes you look puffy. All right?
Gotcha.
So that's important to know. And keep in mind that most of the muscle cell is actually made out of water okay? And obviously, a hydrated muscle cell is a more anabolic muscle cell, meaning a muscle cell that is more prone to growth, okay? Reason why it is important to consume your body weight times 0.66 in ounces of water per day, okay? That's another thing that I need to mention. And in addition to that, creatine also extends your ATP cycle. So what is that? Well, ATP at the most simple level is basically the carbohydrates that you ingest. They get digested and they get like stored into glycogen and whatnot, and then the body takes that glycogen and it turns it into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is a molecule that enables your muscles to contract. Without this molecule, you couldn't contract your muscles. Well, you can think of the following. If ATP is the limiting factor in how many repetitions you can do, let's say that you can bench, 200 pounds 10 times, just making stuff up over here. If you can do that, and you start extending your ATP cycle, meaning that you give more fuel to the muscle to be able to continue, then you may be able to bench 200 pounds 15 times. And that's exactly what creatine does. It extends the amount of time that the muscles can contract and use ATP, okay, because you have more ATP in the muscle now, and therefore you can lift, for more repetitions, you can lift heavier as well, which in turn helps you to gain new muscle mass.
Okay. That makes sense. And that's why you'd want to use it as, if you're really at the competitive level, that creatine is the extra supplement.
It's the kind of stuff, Todd, that if you're not doing your due diligence with your training and your diet, then you're wasting money, You really shouldn't be taking it. Training and diet go first. When you have that figured out and you're using the basic supplements that I recommended, the multiple vitamin, the protein, and the fish oils, then you can go into like things like creatine, and then you can try stuff like glutamine. Glutamine is an amino acid, is the most abundant amino acid in the muscle cells, and it helps to keep cortisol levels under control, and furthermore, it helps with your immunity, and it helps you with your recovery. So it helps you to recover faster. But again, I wouldn't take extra glutamine if you're not training hard,
That makes sense.
So, that's kind of like the core supplements that I like. And then if you're really, really pushing yourself out there and you really are looking for results, if you're super serious about what you're doing, then I would say, you may consider also including things like BCAAs and things like Hicamax, which is a metabolite of leucine. Leucine is one of the BCAAs, one of the branched-chain amino acids, okay? And this Hicamax basically has some incredible anti-catabolic properties and anabolic properties. And when you're pushing yourself to the max, you're going to see incredible results from these sort of supplements. If you're not pushing yourself to the max, you're not going to see anything. So,
okay, that makes sense.
Those are my supplements.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks, Hugo. Just real quick, I love the analogy of the bicycle, one being nutrition and one being, training and whatnot. You talked a little bit about periodization. Can you give us kind of just some more tips on how to push yourself to the max? Maybe some tricks that you've learned to just rip your your muscles even further.
Yeah, absolutely, Todd. With pleasure. Here are some guidelines on how you can create your own periodization sort of thing. First of all, it's important to keep your workouts to no more than 60 minutes, okay? 75 minutes being the absolute I would do if I'm on my last week of a high volume periodization plan, okay? So, let me give you some guidelines. First, I set up the loading phase. The loading phase is the phase in which I'm going to increase the volume over the next few weeks to try to bring my body to the brink of overtraining, okay? What can you do? Well, you know what? You're gonna keep the rest minimal. You can do like 60-second rest in between sets, 45 seconds even. It's okay. You can implement things like supersets, which allows you to do one exercise after the other with no rest in between sets. All right. And like I said, you can start with week 1 with workouts that last like 45 minutes. And week 2, you can go to like 55 minutes. Week 3 to like 60, 65 minutes if you want. If you really want to push it and go on week 4 on 75 minutes, that's fine. You can do it. And then after, what you're going to do, I forgot to say, you have to keep the repetitions between like 10 to 15. Keep the repetitions kind of like high, and then the rest between sets low, all right? You can increase the number of sets every single week, and that's why your workouts are going to get longer, okay? Now, when you hit the growth phase, which is the phase in which, we take advantage of all those extra recovery abilities that we built up over the last 4 weeks, what we do is that we lower the volume to bare minimum, okay? When I say bare minimum, I'm talking about 8 to 10 sets per body part is what I'm talking about. And then you could use the pyramid method if you want. You could just start you can start with like 10 reps and go 8 reps and 6, 6, all right? You could even do 10, 8, 6, 6, 4 if you want. And the key thing is to rest longer in between sets. Now I have a little trick that allows you to rest as much as 4 minutes between sets, but you're actually going to be resting around 90 seconds. So it's like, okay, what does he mean? Well, here's what I mean. You can do what I call modified supersets. Example, you can do modified supersets with antagonistic muscles, meaning opposing muscles. So if you have, say, the bicep and the tricep, just to make an easy example, you have some barbell curls and you have some tricep dips. You could set something up to where you do your barbell curls, then you rest 90 seconds, then you do your tricep dips. Say that you do 10 repetitions, okay? Then after you do your tricep dips, you're going to rest 90 seconds and go back to the barbell curls again, okay? You're going to add some weight. You're going to do 8 reps. Okay, after the 8 reps, you rest 90 seconds. You go back to the tricep dips. You're going to put some weight on the weight belt, and then you're going to do just 8 reps. Then you rest 90 seconds and go back up, add some weight, okay? Do your 6 reps, rest 90 seconds, go back to the tricep dips, perform it for 6 reps after you added some weight, and then back to the barbell curls after a 90-second rest. In this manner, you have a total rest of 3 minutes in between sets, plus the amount of time that it takes you to perform the set for the other exercise. So you have anywhere between 3 to 4 minutes of rest in between. But in reality, you're only resting 90 seconds, which allows you to perform a nice amount of volume during your 60-minute window. Okay? And that's a technique that I love to use during my growth phases, which are the heavier weight, lower volume sort of phases, because it allows you to do all of this while resting a long time in between set, but you're not just like resting and wasting your time, So,
okay.
I recommend 4 weeks of a period where you're bringing up your volume, okay? By bringing up the number of sets, your repetitions are going to be at 10 to 15 all the time. Your rest in between sets is going to be small. You bring your body to the brink of overtraining, and then for 4 weeks, you're just simply going to train a little bit more normal, with more rest in between sets. As I described, I use a lot of modified supersets to be able to get away with it. And furthermore, you're going to be using kind of like the pyramid method in order to be able to put some weight out there. And then after that, what I like to do is I like to do a week of active recovery. And active recovery is just like a full body session twice a week, say Monday and Thursday, for example. Just like 2 sets of like one basic exercise per body part. 2 sets of say like 13 to 15 reps. Nothing major. You're not taking your sets to failure. You just go in for the pump. The key thing is to kind of like reset your whole nervous system without losing the benefits that you've gained already from the 2 previous periods. And then after that active week, you go back to your new loading phase. Okay. And just for your information, the way that I like to split my body parts, okay, is like chest and back one day, shoulders and arms another day, and then legs. That's how it can be done.
Okay. Wow, thanks, Hugo. That feels like I should be paying you thousands of dollars for that workout program. That's really good. That's funny. Great. Yeah, thanks so much, Hugo. Yeah, I really appreciate that. So it's 4 weeks going up, 4 weeks going down, and then 1 week active rest period.
Yeah, and you can do it 3 weeks also. I mean, basically my body reengineering, I did it for 3 weeks. Now that I know my body, my specific body, I like to do 3 or 4 weeks depending on how I feel, just because I can pretty much feel if I'm reaching overtraining or if I'm beginning to undertrain. So I kind of like play it by ear. But, anywhere 3 to 4 weeks works perfectly.
Okay. Cool. Kind of one last final question, Hugo, if you don't mind, kind of more related to motivation. When you just don't feel like getting in the gym, don't feel like doing your workouts, do you bring your mind back to that girl that kind of dissed you, or like what's your tips on motivation?
You must be reading my mind. Okay, that's exactly, for me personally, that's exactly what works for me. It's like if I don't feel like it, especially now because, Todd, I always work to kind of like improve something here and there, but it's not a situation where I'm not happy with how I look, okay? So I'm really happy with how I look. I just like to try to get close to my own idea of how I should look, I guess. So let me add a little bit more size in the side of the legs. Let me add a little bit more on the calves over here, So I'm kind of like fine-tuning things. But, the problem is that when people are happy with themselves, some people get discouraged and they don't have the motivation. They don't have a fire anymore. Mm-hmm. So how do I get the fire? Easy. I just think about what you just mentioned. And in addition, I think about how I used to look. Trust me, my butt gets on fire immediately, and I am training hard, okay? It's like it's never, ever, ever going to happen again. So that's what motivates me. What I think, based on me training so many people online and also in person as well, what I think that works really well for somebody and what worked well for me when I was getting started also is to have this image of what you want to achieve. And that image, you need to really have a super clear image in your head. The clearer it is, the better, okay? And that should be the thing that fires you to get the gym, because it's not always easy. And, we all have jobs, and sometimes it's like, if I don't get my training in the morning, like I did today, for example, and I always try to do that just to get it out of the way. But if I can't, and I get in the afternoon, I really have to push myself and be like, okay, it's time to do this because of that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, for the average person that is just starting out and they don't have the physique that they want yet, the best thing is to really visualize what they want, what they're fighting for, and that should get them going. And I recommend that they take a picture of somebody that they look up to, somebody that really inspires them. Take that picture, cut it out from a magazine or whatever, and stick it on the refrigerator. Trust me, that works really, really well, because a lot of people go to the fridge and they may be looking to cheat on their diet, but if they see that picture over there, that may just go ahead and save them,
Yeah, that's good advice. My wife was telling me about Heidi Klum, the model, and she said that because she's had kids, or at least one kid that I know of, and she loses the weight so quickly. And so Allison, she's 6 months pregnant, and she's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do the same thing that Heidi does. And she takes a picture of herself right after she gives birth, to the child, and then hangs it up on her refrigerator. And she's like, that's that's a negative motivation, to inspire to get in the gym.
And I always tell people, find out what works for you, because I like to give guidelines. Of course, I also have a forum, and that's so cool that I have a forum for all the people that purchase like body reengineering and whatnot, because I can communicate with them and I see how different people react to different things. And you know what? If that works for her, that's what exactly she needs to do. It's like with me, that's what works right now. It's that negative motivation of, dude, if you don't do this, you will look like that again. Okay, I'll do it. Trust me, it's okay. I don't want to look like that.
That's funny. Cool, Hugo. Thanks. Do you have any final last comments for the audience?
Yes, please. First of all, thank you so much, Todd, for the opportunity. It's such an honor to be here with you talking about this and reaching out your audience. So I'm really grateful for that. So I thank you. The other thing that I do want to mention to everybody is the following. Some people may be looking at this interview and may be like, well, I can't do it, And I challenge them to really look inside and be like, okay, why is it that you cannot do it? I did it, and I didn't have these incredible genetics or was not blessed in any way like that, and I was able to do it. And many other people that I've been able to work with, I mean, thousands of people have been able to do it too. So it's like, why can they not do it? I believe all of us have the power within us to accomplish anything and everything that we want to. It's just a matter of how bad do you want it? Are you willing to make the sacrifices that are needed to reach what you're looking for? And this not only applies to body sculpting, this applies to anything in life, really. Okay. So just know that the power is within you. I guarantee you that. I know this from experience. Just, you know what? Grab a plan, follow that plan, adapt the plan to work for you in terms of like the time requirements and things like that, because we all have different schedules. But you know what? Everything can be adapted. There's a solution for everything. Look, years ago, people used to say, man will never fly. And we made it to the moon. And now we even have rovers in Mars, okay? So I think that's a testament of the fact that the human spirit, when you really put it to do something, you will achieve it, okay? If the desire is there, if the determination is there, it can be done.
Awesome.
Okay?
Yeah, Hugo, that's great motivation. And yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. I know it's really valuable information. And we're going to include links to HugoRivera.net and your program, and so people can find out more information. There's a ton of really good articles on the website that you have, and so we'll include information and links to that as well. So thank you so much, Hugo, and for being with us, and thanks everyone for watching.